Welcome back to Project Get Shorty. This episode, we will be removing the drivetrain. Okay. Welcome back to Project Get Shorty. This episode, we will be removing the drivetrain, which includes the drive shafts, transfer case, transmission, and engine. Once that's disappeared, we will degrease and wash the frame prior to taking it to the sandblaster.
Yeah, we're hoping that engine that comes out of Shorty is going to be a good one. We have plans to put it into a future project. That being said, the seller told us that that engine had only been in Shorty for maybe a year and a half, and during that time hadn't been driven very much. But of course, we go to start it up and drive it onto the trailer, and it's running rough, like it's missing something terrible. So when we got it home, we popped off the valve cover, and sure enough, we found a broken valve spring on the number one cylinder. So we were able to replace the valve spring. We found another couple bent push rods, got those replaced. We had the carburetor rebuilt, and lo and behold, right, that engine's running real nice. So, fingers crossed, maybe it can be used. It is a Ford remanufactured engine. So it's got a green block. For some reason, Ford paints their blocks green when they rebuild them, but nonetheless, and it had a data tag on it as well, telling us the specs on the crank and the bore. So, it all looks good. So just to be on the safe side, before we pull it out of the frame, we'll put spark to the starter and do a compression test and just, see what we're working with here. And as far as that future project, stay tuned.
The rest of the powertrain does not inspire much confidence. If the parts truck is as good as we think it is, we won't be using any of Shorty's mechanicals or suspension components.
Yeah, speaking of suspension, man, we got a pretty cool upgrade that we're going to be adding to Shorty's suspension. So we'll be revealing that at the end of the video. All right, we're down to the chassis and driveline. So we've got this thing scheduled to head to the sandblasters tomorrow. So we need to get all of the stuff, the last of the driveline stripped out of it. We're going to leave the axles and the suspension so we can have a rolling chassis for loading onto the trailer. But for now, we need to drain the master cylinder, get all the brake fluid out. We need to remove all the accessory drives off the front of the engine, get the wiring harness out of the way. We got the transmission cooling lines in the front of the cross member. They're going to have to go. Bubba's reinforcement brace is going to have to go. And also, we want to do a compression test on this engine while it's still in the frame and while the starter's still connected. So it's easy once we get the wires off, just to bump the engine over and just check all the cylinders to see what we have for overall engine compression. So strip the engine down, get it ready to be removed. We're going to disconnect the engine at the bell housing, and we figure that we're going to, and of course the clutch fork, and then we're going to lift the engine out by itself, because the transmission transfer case seemed to be fairly well balanced on the transmission cross member. So engine comes out, and then we can pluck the transmission transfer case out all in as a unit. Of course, exhaust crossover pipe has to come off. We're going to leave the cab mounts on for now. We're not sure, because we're going to have to destroy them to get them off. The sleeves seize together, and they won't come off unless you cut them off with a Sawzall, but they seem to be in good condition. So we're just going to wait on that for a second. Talking about the wear on this poor truck, now that we've got the body off, we can look, and of course everything is leaking, the amount of oil, which is, I guess, not to be, it's not unexpected in a vehicle this old. But then we have the play, so I'm just going to move the drive shaft here, and we've got some pretty good play. Now I'm not 100% sure if it's a combination of the transfer case and the rear differential, but once we get the drive shaft off, we'll be able to turn each one individually, and we can see if there's more play than what we're having right now. Same with the front drive shaft. There's a lot of movement And so we're thinking the transfer case chain at minimum is quite stretched. So this transfer case is going to have to be taken apart and probably rebuilt. But again, we're hoping and fairly confident that the parts truck will have everything we need when it comes to the transmission, transfer case, and the differentials. So the drive shafts will come off. We didn't take the shocks off. We don't want those in the way for when we're sandblasting. The fuel tank has to be siphoned out, and we got a proper fuel storage system to put the fuel in. We're going to drop the tank. The leaf springs and the axle will stay, so we can keep pushing it along. We'll leave the brackets on because they might as well get clean too. And all of the wiring harness, the brake lines, and the fuel lines will come off as well. So we have a nice clean frame for the sandblasters. So that's kind of where we are now. We have roughly about a day of work time to get this done. So let's get after it.
Sometimes the past just doesn't want to let go.
Ed's been doing lots of thinking. He has a transfer case out, and I think it came out pretty easily. Now we're taking off the transmission. We've got the transmission bolts removed, and I think the best way to do this is to take the cross member off. So Ed's got that loosened off. For the rest of the frame, we just slowly went across like every inch of it, removing whatever we could. There were lots of muffler hangers. There were all kinds of little plastic clips that pushed through the frame that we couldn't get off without destroying them, so they got destroyed. The rear bumper brackets, I kept going on about how rare it was to find these still on this vehicle. We're going to leave those on so they can go to the sandblasters, get cleaned up. We're going to leave the back axle and leaf springs on. We're not using either or. We're going to use the leaf springs and rear axle from the parts truck. So we're not going to have these blasted, of course. So then we're just going to have the frame done and leave these as a rolling chassis. Damage, you know what? Shockingly, we're not finding much damage on the frame. We expected to see a little bit more cracking, and it's been relatively solid. Here's some of the original satin gloss paint. Kind of cool to see it hiding there after all these years. The front here, we've taken off the shocks, as you can tell, cleared away most everything we could so that the sandblaster can get in there and get it as clean as he can. Engine is totally stripped down. We did a compression test while it was still in the frame and we could get access to the starter. We just put power to it. And the compression wasn't bad, all around 135 pounds. So that's encouraging. We'll do some more diagnostics on this engine because we have plans for this motor. Pretty dirty and greasy as you'd expect where the engine is, and all that's got to be cleaned up prior to going to the sandblasters. Steering box has been disconnected but left on because we need a way to turn the tires. We just plugged up the line holes here with brass plugs so it doesn't get sand in them, although I doubt we'll be using the steering box. What else can we tell you? She's all cleaned up, ready to go. We're going to get the transmission out. We're going to pull the motor, and then we're going to start scraping with a wire brush, get the heavy grease off where the front cross member is. Then we're going to put some degreaser on it, and then we're going to pressure wash the whole thing. So we'll bring you back when we get to that point. So sorry about not filming that, but I had to put the camera down and come and save Ed. No thanks necessary, Ed. So now we got it down, got it out. It did get hung up on the clutch fork. So we just engaged the clutch fork and it popped right out. And now we're going to throw it on this little trolley that we have with the transfer case. We're not planning to use either one because again, there's a lot of wear on these particular drivetrain components. So we're just going to go ahead and use the parts truck, unless for some unforeseen reason the parts truck pieces seem to be even more worn, which I'm not anticipating. All right, transmission out. We'll bring you out when we have it outside, and we're getting ready to lift the motor.
Okay, this is where we're at with the Project Shorty. We've got the frame stripped down. As you can see, we've stripped all of the parts off of it, the clamps, all the lines, any harnesses that were there. Um, the front end of it was caked in oil and grime, and so we degreased it, we pressure washed it. Um, didn't reveal any surprises. It's in really good shape, it appears to be. Um, we're going to address any issues like you'll see on these frame horns. They're deformed a little bit and a crack, likely from a previous vehicle recovery operation. Overall, the frame is in really good condition. There's surface corrosion, but you're going to see that on all frames. We gave it a quick measurement just to see if it was within square. Everything seems pretty good. We'll have a closer look at that, of course. But the reason for this is so that we could prepare it to take it in for sandblasting.
Shorty came to us with an aftermarket 4-inch lift kit already installed, and it really enhanced the stance of the vehicle. Of course, it allows for much bigger tires. Shorty had 33-inch all-terrain tires on when we got them initially. Of course, we switched back to the standard P235 15 tires and standard stock rims. Just while we're working on them, we were able to sell his other tires to recoup back some money. And we'll talk about that when we do our financial disclosures. But nonetheless, 4-inch lift, super cool. We mentioned before that lift kits for these trucks can be fairly expensive, in excess of $1,000, depending on the type of lift kit you get. The problem with this lift kit is it's for appearances only. It's only designed to get the vehicle up so you can run bigger tires and have a cooler look. The weak point for these types of lift kits is in the bracket for the radius arm. What they've done is they've kept the stock radius arm, the shortened radius arm that would have left the factory with, and they put this longer bracket on in order to accommodate the 4-inch lift. And so this is a stress point, and it is a fail point on these types of systems, and it does nothing to improve your articulation. It gives you the look of the lift, but it does nothing to actually improve performance of the vehicle. So we got lucky. We've been looking for parts for Shorty ever since we bought the project, spending time online, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, all of the places where you'd normally go looking for parts and hopefully finding deals. And while we were searching around, and we searched, of course, 1980 to 86 Ford F-150 or Ford truck, and look what popped up. It is a Rancho, it's called a long arm suspension kit. These were available for these trucks in the early 80s. And what this kit does, and I remember them being quite expensive in the day, what it does is it retains the stock radius arm bracket, which keeps it tucked up nice and close to the frame, because it is, again, as we said, it's a stress point. And instead, because of the longer radius arm, it's going to mount about 11 inches back of where the stock location was. So this bracket will bolt up, I think we said, right in front of this transmission cross member. Of course, with the transmission cross member, it's going to be a point of strength on the frame. Plus, it's going to be the stock bracket, which is going to allow this arm to be tucked up nice and close to the frame. But the longer arm will give you the extended travel, suspension performance, and still allow the 4-inch lift to work properly. We also have the Rancho coil springs, and they're rated to accommodate not only the lift, the 4-inch lift, but also increased articulation that will come with this system. So if we were to look online and search and try to find this kit, chances are we wouldn't find it, but we just happened to stumble across it and we were able to snap it up. The guy was dismantling a bullnose, selling it for parts, and this is some of the parts he was selling. So we were very fortunate. Now, not saying you couldn't find one of these. If you go on to the forums, the F-150 forums, the Ford truck forums, and you are asking on the forums, does anybody have one of these for sale? You might get lucky and someone may have one. And if you do want a 4-inch lift on your bullnose, then this is definitely the way to go if you can get your hands on one.
That went pretty smooth. No nasty surprises.
I hate surprises.
As suspected, there was a lot of slop in the transfer case and differentials. On a positive note, the engine compression on the 400M was around 135 psi. 140 or to 150 psi would have been great, but I think we can work with the 135. Now that the engine is on the stand, we can pull the pan and look at the bearings.
Exactly. The frame is also clean on Shorty. We got it all pressure washed and degreased, and it turned out quite nice. I mean, the frame itself, we didn't find anything too concerning. No big cracks or breaks and no repairs, so that's all good news. We also made an executive decision as we were getting ready to bring the parts truck in for a deconstruction. We noticed that the frame itself, the axles were pretty crusty. And I think what we decided to do was take the parts truck apart, remove the axles and suspension that we want to use on Shorty, install them on Shorty's frame, and rather than just have the frame sandblasted, we're going to get everything sandblasted. The frame, the axles, suspension. So that's also going to mean that we're going to have to install the long arm kit prior to doing all of that. So we're going to ship it all out together, and then I think in the long run, it's going to make life easier for us.
Yeah, I think those long arms was a great find.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they look like.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.